There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. And treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together. Those words are by Meg Wheatley in a poem entitled Turning to One Another. And really, those words are everything I have to offer you this evening in response to the call. That said, you're stuck with me for a few more minutes. Before I get too far, how about another show of gratitude for NMEAC? NMEAC bringing us back. We were home for a while, weren't we? And this beautiful, beautiful Milliken Auditorium and the Denos Museum with Taproots, great food, and the Reisig Brothers, great music. It's feeling a little pioneerish to me in here. And can we brag on June Thaden for just a second? What a community treasure. What a warrior woman. June, to be called in by you to stand up here tonight, I feel just so humbled and so honored. And she's not the only rock star here tonight. I saw many of you out there, and there's others of you who I don't know as well. This is a very special room to be in tonight. And I too would like to invite in some of our ancestors who have shared our dreams and helped us get here, and who are in our hearts and part of our breath. We invite them in. And also invite in the land that holds us, this dreamboat of a glaciated Sweetwater landscape, and to all those who have held this land, Chi-miigwech. So many generations of Anishinaabe peoples in conversation with this place. And now we get to live here too. We are so lucky to live here in this great community, in this fertile ground. And I knew how great this community was before I moved here January 1st, 2001. I knew this community supported a fantastic food cooperative that made its own fresh tofu, which blew my California preconceived notions right out of my mind. This community has not one but 2 public radio stations, a sure indicator of a quality of life. This region is known for deep soil farmers, chef farmers, wild bakers, hippie innkeepers. When I moved here, I got to meet them. I met Mike Everts, Gerard Grabowski, Sally Van Vleck, many others who warmly invited me in, extended a hand, mentored me, connected me to others. I got to meet the famous bioregionalist author Stephanie Mills. I was reading Stephanie Mills' work as part of my graduate studies in California, earning my master's degree at UC Davis. I have a master's degree in community development. I am a working professional in community development. You might wonder what that is or means, and that's hard to pin down. But how community development is done That I have some strong opinions about. You see, what and how, these are key questions that coaches ask. Coaches help us get between the lines and underneath the root of our actions. Coaches help us work as teams. The question why is great for finding a calling, for finding core values. But what and how? These questions make things happen. So as the poem's title, Turning to One Another, this is risky and wonderful work. Some great conflict resolutionists like Nelson Mandela have taught us that we must negotiate the process. When we're negotiating with other people, we must negotiate the process before we can get to substance. We have to negotiate the how before we can get to the what, because process is at the center of everything. Processes become our stories, and our stories predict the future. Currently, too many of the stories we're exposed to and have a part in are about processes and stories and institutions that are fixated on extractive, toxic, predatory, life-taking strategies. Systems that are destabilizing, degenerative, that steal from the future, that centralize and privatize resources while socializing the costs. I want to share different stories. I want to be engaged in regenerative spaces that are health-bringing and life-affirming. I want to talk about interdependence. I want to build circular economies focused on mutual aid. I want to be part of systems that prioritize education and empowerment, especially for Black and Indigenous women and girls. I want to be in spaces that invest in biodiversity and habitat corridors. I want to work on carbon drawdown for quality of life, for quality of all life. I was just at a conference this week in Detroit, the Michigan State Conference on Climate Health, and they had a saying they kept repeating: to change everything takes everyone. We are at a global inflection point, and it is up to us how we will proceed into the future. There are a great many things and people in grave danger. There is urgency, and yet we are called on to treasure curiosity even more than certainty. Yes, there is a need for reckoning, examining how and who got us here. It is time to be hard on extractive and degenerative institutions and systems, but not on each other. Don't forget how many others share your dreams. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Our work in this time is to invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible, no matter what kind of language they speak. It is time to build, retain, regenerate connections, not sever them. Be invitational. I'd like to ask everyone to point one finger to the sky. Take a look at that finger and see if you can get it going in a clockwise circle. Now bring that finger, keep going in a clockwise direction and bring your finger down below your nose. Take a look at your circle. What direction is it going now? How could my finger be going clockwise and counterclockwise with the same motion? Holding two conflicting truths at the same time, this is invitational thinking. Paradox is what allows us to do crazy things and make them possible. As Angela Davis said, walls turned sideways become bridges. We need bridges right now. We all have divides that we need to cross. And some of those divides require a great deal of courage. Sometimes they're personal, sometimes they're political, sometimes they're both. Please live with some dissent. Dissent is good for democracy. And when you are being brave enough to start a conversation that matters, take care to be kind, to be truthful, and to be helpful in the moment. This is hard work. These words are easy to say, but the work is difficult. It takes practice. All of us need to keep returning to the basics. What are our shared values? How do we complement one another's strengths? When can we forge these spiritual and emotional bonds and connections with others like we're doing right now? And can we have the courage to bring true transparency? If we can remember those basics, magic emerges. If you would, I'd like to ask you to reflect on a moment where you were less than proud of your behavior. I ask you to go there again. What parts of your body were feeling things in that moment? Clinically observe what literally happened. How did that make you feel? What would you have rather seen happen in that moment? And how might your actions have generated a different moment? What might you have done differently? In the infamous words of Seth Bernard, it's never too late to take back the future. If I had to sum up in just a couple words how to do community development properly, I would say activate love in all of our relationships and with all of our relations, all our human relations, all our non-human relations, and all the other human relations too, all of the time. And all of the time because you can't know which moment will matter. So we have to tend to them all. We have to keep practicing. And we will fail. It's okay. When you fail, be kind, be truthful, and be helpful to yourself. And when you see other people fail, love them through it, especially if it's hard. How we approach life is what life becomes. It is a group delusion we're creating together. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. That's us. That's now. And our future. So last weekend, Bioneers, the California conference occurred, and I think I might leave you with the words that Joanna Macy left her audience. She said, "I'm going to suggest what you can do to save the world. Be glad you're alive. Let's have a great evening celebrating each other." Thank you. Good? All right. Thank you.